why acting? Why? Let's get personal.
I've added elements of my life to the film. The mental health aspect of things, that's what the driving force of the film is. From birth, from I've been young, my dad's always had schizophrenia in my life. I want to raise awareness and start conversations about mental health, like about knife crime, but not just knife crime, but the root cause of knife crime. So, why does it happen? We're all people at the end of the day. And just to ultimately show that there is no black and white to this.
And then it went to the festivals and you won.
I remember watching the first time and I was like, oh, I don't like this. Schizophrenia, it's a mental illness that warps your perception of reality. My dad has said when he's having his moments or whatever, he refers to them as demons. So he says the demons take hold. Class is, you have to attend class. But the real work starts when you're on set. It was the biggest theatre performance that I'd ever done. Catch myself for a minute and be like, hold on, no, I do deserve to be here. I really love getting myself lost in a scene and making someone feel something. My mom's got a very big heart. She's the type of person she'll give you the clothes off her back. Don't let anyone tell you can't do anything. When you walk towards your destiny, there are people that will help you achieve your goals. If you want to do something, do it.
Hi, I'm Andrei Rogozin. This is Beyond Real Talk, and my guest today is actor and writer Micah Abna.
Thank you for having me, Andre. How are you?
I'm alright, man. I haven't seen you for such a long time.
It's been a few years, hasn't it?
Yeah. Last episode I did with Tara, who did the showcase with us.
Yeah.
With the Working Actor Studio, and I think it wasn't in Working Actor Studio yet.
So long ago, man. It's like what?
It's like another life.
Yeah, because I feel like pre-COVID it's just like it feels like it was like the 90s or something like that. And it wasn't even that long ago, but it kind of was. Sometimes I forget how long the whole COVID period was for, to be fair.
You know, and I usually ask this question later in the podcast, but let's talk about this now. If we start talking about COVID, how did COVID change your life? Did it?
Yeah. If I'm completely honest, I loved COVID.
No. Get out! It's over. Podcast
Are we done? No, I loved COVID. Yeah. Working from home and not saying not being able to go out, but the streets were quiet. When you're driving on the road, there was no traffic. Everything was just sort of empty. It felt quite freeing, because when you go for a walk, it felt like a big accomplishment. And then you go to the park. I remember during that time was the most people I've ever seen in the park.
Yeah.
I went to the park once, and literally, I've never seen so many people in the park. It's a big park anyway, but there was people skateboarding, there's people playing tennis, basketball, football, just chilling, and I've never seen that before or since. Since things have died down, things have gone back to normality. No one goes to the park and does that anymore. But it was a privilege back then to be doing that, and I feel like people took. We sometimes it brought us back to back to basics, and we was able to appreciate the small things. Working from home has revolutionized my life, so don't try and take it back.
No, I mean, to be fair, because for me, I was working in the office. I had an office job. And the first couple of months were fine, because you suddenly I don't need to travel. I'm at home. I get up. I just take a shower and I'm at work. Then at just some point I realized, you know what? I miss people from the office. I miss talking to people my age, because I'm most I've seen my kids a lot because they live around. So, and it really helped. But at the same time, sometimes we're all grown-ups in my life. At some point, because we worked from home after the COVID, we never went back to the office until while I was in that company. At some point, I just worked with people who I never met in real life, And like you do meetings with some people like, I don't even know you.
When we've been doing our job from home sometimes for so long, it also, begs the question, if we do our jobs from home, then do we need to necessarily be in the office as well at the same time? So
yeah, fair enough. Well, that's good that COVID didn't damage you as it did some of us.
No, I was fine in COVID.
All right, look, I want to talk about you. And for me to understand, basically, like for people who listen to this, to understand who you are, to know who you are, what do I need to know about you? Give me your, origin story, like a superhero.
Yeah, origin story. Okay. So I've been acting. What are we 2025 now? I've been acting since 2017, I think. So for about 8 years now. Started at Identity, which everyone and their grandma starts with Identity, to be fair. Yeah. Most people know about it. And it's the affordable acting class, which is the most well known. I started acting because I saw a clip of John Boyega when he was doing the premiere for Star Wars.
Yeah.
He was on the red carpet and he said, "I'm from Peckham," whatever. And I was like, he's from Peckham? Because I'm from Croydon. So it's not too far. I was like, if he's from Peckham and I'm from Croydon, that means that it can happen, right? It's realistic. Because back in the day, I always had an idea that I wanted to act, but I didn't know if it was possible. I just thought, the highest that you could probably get is an EastEnders. That's what I thought. Okay, you could probably just get an EastEnders. That's probably about it. You're not probably going to get into like big movies and whatever. And then when I saw that, I realized that how possible it was. And I feel like a lot of other people saw it as well. And then that's when they rushed in. So I started with them and then I went to different independent classes. So 1956 Studios, MN Academy, which 1956 Studios turned into a Working Actor Studio. And then I found other classes, sense acting class, sense acting sessions. And that's been my journey. I've done a few different independent classes and I've been writing in the meantime while I've been attending these classes. And, I've been wanting to sort of share my vision and actually, create my art for people to see. But I've just been sort of biding my time. And now I guess it's time to sort of show what we've been working on for the last couple of years.
Well, we'll get to your short film and to your writing, but why acting? Why? Why do you get into this, all of us, why do we get into this, industry of constant rejection? No, but to be fair, like what draws you to acting? Why you decided? Was it part of your childhood in any way? Movies, theater, stage?
No, the thing is, not really. I've never been like, I've always been curious about it. I've not been really involved in the arts from a young age or whatnot. I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I was younger. I didn't do very well in school. So, I thought, this is it. I remember when I got my GCSEs and I didn't care about school at the point. I thought, forget school, it's fine. My vision was to do an apprenticeship at the time. So I said, forget school. And then I saw my grades and looked at the paper. I felt like my life was over, Andre. I felt like my life was over. So, I was always quite curious about it. And I've always sort of had a sort of out there personality. So people would always think that maybe you can sort of attribute it to acting. Like maybe that's sort of where your personality lies. And I was always kind of curious about it. And then, I guess acting, because when I started it, I thought, you know what, I met these two directors. I used to work in a restaurant. I used to be a waiter a good few years ago now. And I met these two Shakespearean directors. And we had a bit of banter, because they was quite eccentric and, we kind of hit it off. And one of them looked at me and said, "Have you tried acting, young man?" And I was like, "Nah." He's like, "I think you'd be quite good at it." And I was like, I don't know. And he said one thing that stuck with me. He was like, the worst thing that's going to happen is you're not going to enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, then don't do it. And then I thought to myself, you know what? I have nothing to lose by trying. Do you know? So then when I went into identity, IDSA, that's sort of where I felt like comfortable, where I attended class and like the stuff that we was doing, I was really interested in it. And just the psychology of acting, I really, really love. I really love getting myself lost in a scene and making someone feel something. Because when I've done performances, like I did a stage play last year, the story of Fraser. Shout out to everyone involved, Wil Johnson.
Wil Johnson was in the podcast. Check the episode somewhere here, but after this one. How was it working with Wil?
It was amazing. Yeah. He was a really good director. And the thing is, because he was an actor first, he can understand the language of actors and sort of how he can also demonstrate what he's talking about as well.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to talk about it and I could tell you, you know what, do it this way or whatever. If I can demonstrate it, then like it takes a certain level of understanding, or not just understanding, but the fact that you're able to demonstrate what you're talking about.
If I remember right from my podcast with him, he said it was his directorial debut.
It was.
Yes.
With Wil, it was amazing to work with him. I can't recommend him enough as a director. He was really able to sort of, you know, bring as much out of us that, you know, was there to sort of grasp with the characters and stuff. It was.
How many nights do you do?
We did one night.
Yeah.
It was one night. So we did 3 performances that one day.
Yeah.
So we did a first sort of performance, sort of like a run through. And then we did a matinee, and then we did the evening performance, and we sold out. It was almost like 500, and we sold out the whole thing. And
nice.
Yeah, it was packed. It was.
How was it? Because I did some theater, Russian theater, but I never did theater in front of more than how many people you can get in the cockpit theater? I think
it's about. Is it 100 or more?
No. It's definitely more. I think it was around 300, 200, because it has like auditorium in a circle, right?
Yeah.
But we had it only like on 3 sides. But anyway, so it's not even close to what you had. Like, what's the feeling like being on stage with so many people looking at you?
No, you know the thing is, I looked it up before I did the rehearsals or anything like that, because they kept saying the Shore Theatre, the Shore Theatre, the Shore Theatre. And I thought, you know, let me actually Google the space. Like, let me see what it looks like. And I realized how big it was. I was like, oh shit. I was like, this is actually where I'm going to be performing. So I did panic a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. I did panic a little bit because it was the most. Like, it was the biggest theatre performance that I'd ever done to date. And I was a little bit worried, but because I had a bit of imposter syndrome.
As all of us do.
Yeah, as we all do, right? I had a bit of imposter syndrome where it was like, do I deserve this? Like, should I be here? I'm not good enough for this. And then you sort of think to run away and like, okay, maybe, or whatnot. And
too late.
Yeah, it's too late.
It's never too late. What will they do to you? You won't go to jail because you just didn't come.
No, my career as an actor would be over though.
Yeah, still forget about it.
But like I had to. I sat with it and I had to meditate about it and really think about it and really just like catch myself for a minute and be like, hold on, no, I do deserve to be here. I've been working these years training as an actor. Yeah. At what point am I going to be ready if I'm not ready now? Do you know what I mean? So it's like,
absolutely,
yeah. And like through the vigorous like rehearsals, we was doing rehearsals every day. So the amount of rehearsals that we was getting out of the way and stuff like that, it made us feel a level of confidence because we did it so much. So when you practice so much and then you sort of take it to stage, obviously you still feel a little bit of nerves, you feel a little bit jitters and whatnot. And especially on the night, the opening and closing night. Yeah. When everyone sort of filled up the room, you heard people laughing, people talking, and like us as the actors behind the scenes, we was all just saying to each other like, we've got this. like give it the energy, and then obviously went out there and did what we did. So it was a really, really fun time.
Yeah.
I loved it. Yeah.
How do you fight the nerves on stage?
I think breathing exercises works. Breathing exercises always works because it helps to calm yourself, calm your nerves. Like just make sure you breathe from your diaphragm. It's very important because a lot of the time I breathe through my chest and sometimes I don't notice it until I do, if that makes any sense.
And then the volume goes down.
Yeah. Did you just do it? I feel like you just did it.
Because I just thought about being on stage and get nervous.
And just sort of, you know, catching yourself and remembering like why you're here. But yeah, breathing works, sort of exercises like to sort of like loosen up the body as well. So like humming exercises, vocal warm-ups is important as well. And movement exercises just to loosen the body so there's not any trapped nerves in a certain place. And, you know, if there is, it's intentional for the character. That's important.
Yeah, nice. So you enjoyed it, yeah?
I loved it, man.
Are you looking forward to the next one?
I would definitely do it again. Yeah. I'd definitely do it again. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, because I remember in the second episode with Matt.
Yes, yeah.
Matt UK. We were actually talking about it. We were talking about it that at some point you gotta realize that you're ready. Because you can go to the classes as much as you want, and you like at some point you get into this kind of feeling of like, I'm studying, I'm not an actor, I'm a student. Like, am I ready? You like if you did a job for a long time, like if you did the work and you put a lot of effort, like yes, you are. You will not be ready without actually doing it.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
100%. And you know, like I have these conversations with like my co-star and one brother, Tyler Kinghorn. Class is good. Class is very important. It's imperative if you're an actor, but it also doesn't mean anything, in a sense where you can be the best in class, but when you get on set, you could still like lose all of what you've learned and whatever. Like so, being like class is you have to attend class, but the real work starts when you're on set. The real work starts when you're on set, on the stage. Like that's where the real work comes into it. Class doesn't actually mean like much.
Yeah.
We train for so long, but sometimes when it comes to actually like going out there and being on set, sometimes people lose it and, you know, you get a bit overwhelmed. So that's where you're really tried. And those are the hardest moments that you have to get through. You know, it's tough, man. It's tough out there.
Yeah, I know. But to be fair, I noticed some, like on me, that I was more nervous in class than I was on set.
Really?
Yeah, quite a few times I noticed that when I was on set, like, and that's firstly not as often as I would want to, I kind of caught myself like, you know what? No, I'm not nervous. I know what I'm doing. I'm prepared. I kind of know why I'm here. And I'm here because they cast me, so it's fine.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Like, I hear it. I feel like with class though, I get it though, because when you're standing up and everyone's doing the same thing, like if you're doing a monologue or whatever, there's kind of that level of competition where it's just like, you know, we're all doing the same scene here. It's not a different scene or whatever, and we're all actors or whatnot. But for me, I feel like there was a day I did it was my first project, first like proper project. It was in Ealing Studios. Shout out to the team that I worked with, and it was a student project. So it was in their third year. I remember I went on to set the first day, and like I wasn't really needed for that day. I probably needed for like a scene, and that was in the evening. But I just wanted to sort of get the experience of just being on set and so I went to where they were shooting. And I remember I went on set and like I saw everyone just turn around and look at me. There was like 20 people. And I shat myself. I was like, oh shit, I've got to perform in front of all of these people. Whatever. But I think, in time, you sort of get used to it a little bit more. The more you do it, repetition always helps, I think. Yeah,
and also the thing is, like all those people, they didn't come there to look at you, to watch you. I mean, like some of them actually have to do it, have to, watch it through like a camera or whatever. Most of them are doing their jobs. There are so many people on set sometimes, and they're actually all of them. they don't think about you.
Yeah, no.
Apart from people who have to think about you because like they have to fiddle with your hair, like and change, like all this stuff. Mm-hmm. But in general, it's just sometimes I think it helps sometimes. But I'm not sure if I experienced that, but like, I mean, when you do the take, people actually are watching you.
Yeah, everyone's watching the screen.
Yeah.
Everyone's watching the screen, and you're just like, oh, okay.
Well, in this case, I think we gotta just trust the director.
Yeah.
There's nothing else we can do.
No.
Right?
No. You have to trust the director's vision, because that's the thing. Like when I've done scenes or whatnot, I get quite like, was that good? Was that like? And the director's like, oh yeah, no, it's fine. And part of me's like, are you sure? Like, are you like there's that part of me that's like, I trust you, but like at the same time, because I can't see it, there's that level of uncertainty that sort of kicks in where I'm like, I kind of want to see it. And that's the anticipation kind of kicks in. But you just have to sort of get used to it. That's what comes with experience, isn't it? Mm. And the more you do it, the more you sort of the more you sort of rein yourself in. Like, okay, I've done this before, I know how it works, it's fine.
How do you react? Like, when you're watching yourself on screen, like how often are you all right with what you see?
Never, man.
Yeah.
Never. I feel like, because, I feel like as actors, we're always quite self-critical. It's always about, I don't know about that. That line, you know what I mean? We're always like observing ourselves and like critiquing ourselves to an extent. So, watching myself, I still haven't completely gotten used to, because there's always a level where you're like, I could have done that better, or I shouldn't have done that. Why did I do that? Or, you know what I mean? We're so critical of ourselves. Sometimes we just have to get out of our own head. But so it's still there. It's still there. It happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah, because I think I got used to kind of seeing myself and hearing myself. And after so many episodes of editing the podcast, I got used to hearing myself. I don't care anymore. I really at some point, I don't care. I'm kind of starting to, like my receding hairline and this fucking voice and whatever my face is doing when I talk. But I got used to it. But I think with acting, in the beginning, I hated watching it at all. Then I think now I get used, when I don't like the acting, it's one thing, but at least I'm not disturbed by everything else. And sometimes I can actually look at it like, you know what? That's fine. I enjoyed it. But I think that the more time has passed since you actually did the scene when you're watching it, the better the effect.
You think the more time?
No, I mean, no, not to the degree when you're watching this and you're like, oh my God, it was so bad 5, 6, 7 years ago. I was shit. And yeah, fair enough. But it's just when you just did the scene, I caught myself a few times on that. When I just did the scene and I'm watching next day or whatever. And I'm like, what? I didn't feel whatever you're showing with your face. I felt it different. But if it's few months and then you're watching it, I don't remember what was happening in the take.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
No, I feel like the longer it is for me, I'm just always like, no, I could have done that better.
No, I mean, obviously, you always find some things that you could have done better. But I remember one distinct thing that I remember, I did this student short film, You're Lucky Money. And when I watched it the first time, I was like, oh my God, it's so bad. I'm so stiff. I'm so awful. But then I watched it probably 2 years later. I was like, you know what? Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
It's not too bad. It could be better. Obviously, now I would play a different way, but it's not as bad as I thought.
Yeah. No, okay, now I get what you mean. Yeah. I think, it was an interesting process. Even, obviously, I know we're going to touch on it in a bit, but even with the short in my film, when I saw it the first time, I was like, oh, no one's gonna see this.
Seriously, really? Yeah.
Seriously, I was like,
because you know what? Let's go there. So you decided to choose the profession with the most rejection in the world. And then I thought, like, I'll also write, because writing, this never gets rejected.
Well, well, that's another one that gets loads of rejection too.
Yeah. So, how did you get into writing?
I've been writing now for probably about 7 years. 7 years now. It was a thing where I was out with some friends, and you know, we started talking about a story that we can write, like a short film, like a good few years ago now. And you know, it was funny because we was all like writing a script. It's crazy because it was like 4 people writing the same script, and we was somehow gonna mesh it together to make one. I don't know how the idea was supposed to work, but we was all writing the same script. We all was writing the same idea, and somehow we were supposed to make it one. That didn't happen. That didn't work. But I started writing from then, and I've just it's just been snowballing. I've been, you know, we've been writing, like writing different projects, picking up a project, thinking of an idea, you know, and that's sort of where it started. And, you know, nothing's happened until now. But I just literally just been like hiding away in my little cave, writing my little scripts with my ideas. And yeah, I've got a few different ideas that I've been sort of tethering with and stuff like that. So now I've formed a production company with my boy. Shout out to Tolu Kingba, Room 1610. So we formed a production company and we're writing different projects. So that's sort of how it's starting to form and take shape at the moment. So yeah, it started 7 years ago with one silly script, and I was really bad. I was so bad. But it takes a while to develop sometimes, and you need to take the time to actually develop your craft until you can finally like show people what you've been working on for a good couple of years. So that's, of course. Yeah.
And what's your process in writing? Do you have a process, or you just write?
I have a process in terms of like, I think of an idea, and there always needs to be conflict and drama. Like, what's the situation? I try and sort of build the world around like what's going on. Like, what's the main situation of the story? So, for example, obviously, with one brother, he's caring for his mum and his younger brother, but that's conflict. But what can drive it further? What's the extra conflict that you can sort of add to it? He's come out of prison, that, you know, he's, you know, in a situation that he's trying to build his life again. So he's struggling in his own life while he's also trying to care for his family. So that's where the conflict is very important to have. So you sort of like build the log line sort of first, like, okay, like Jaden, the next convict, attempts to rebuild his life post-prison, but the struggles of his family with financial and mental health crisis bring him back into the criminal world. You sort of need a bit of both to make the log line interesting. So at least if you've got a solid log line, then you might potentially have a story, but it's also upon how you execute that and bring it to life. And then obviously then you add the layers and the colors to the story, and then the fleshing out the characters and the actual story of what happens, the opening. And then you have to have a sort of the whole layout of the story.
So with One Brother, which is your short film that you wrote and you starred in it, you playing the main character. And I watched it yesterday. I really, really enjoyed it. And you know, the thing is, sometimes when you watch something like that your friends did, you don't know what to expect, because sometimes, like, you know, and I was part of some projects like that. When you're watching it, it's like, oh my God, I hope no one will ever see that. But in this case, the first second I watched it, I'm like, whoa, that's quality. Because even technically, it's just the color grading, the picture, like everything looks amazing. And I'm like, okay, now we can watch it. How did this start? Why this idea? Where does it come from? Something personal, or is just something that you kind of got inspired by?
No, I've added elements of my life to the film. And I think, especially as a first project, I wanted to make sure it's at least close to home.
Mm-hmm.
So write about something that you're familiar with. So I'm familiar with the mental health aspect of it. That's why, the little brother has schizophrenia. My dad's got schizophrenia.
Mm.
I'm familiar with the care aspect of it because I'm also a carer for my mum as well. And as well with the knife crime element of it as well, like, because I've been, born and raised in Croydon, you've seen certain things. I've been, sort of not affiliated, but I know certain people that has done certain things. You have friends that are along the way and have done certain things to make money and X, Y, and Z or whatever. So like adding all of those together to actually make a compelling film, I thought was important. Because the mental health aspect of things, that's what the driving force of the film is, because I feel like that is quite prevalent in my life because I've sort of dealt with that from a young age. Obviously my dad's from I've been young, my dad's always had schizophrenia in my life. And I've gone through certain things with him that I can actually relate to the film, and I thought make something relatable, because there's a lot of people that may be able to relate to the movie, or if they can't relate to the movie because they might not be going through something similar or have gone through something similar, you can at least raise awareness of the situation. And I believe it's still a good watch regardless if you're from that world or not. And I wanted to make a film that didn't glorify the gang violence itself. I wanted to make a film that humanized us and, showed the family element of, certain going on, certain things that happen, because I feel like it's important to highlight that sometimes. I feel like sometimes it's mainly focused on the gang violence, and I like to see, the other side of it and how it affects the family, because that's also very interesting. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that's why I did the One Brother the way I did.
How long did it take you to write it?
Started writing about 6-7 years ago. So I wrote the script. I had the idea for it. I was like, yeah, it's going to be about, like what it's going to be about. And I put it together, left it alone for a good couple of years. Didn't go back to it until probably about 2 years ago. Because that's the process. That's my process. Sometimes I start writing an idea and then I drop it. I'm like, okay, I get another idea. I'm like, okay, this is a good idea. And then start writing about that. And then I work on that for a couple of months. And then I go somewhere else and I start writing on that for a couple of months. And I never finish anything, basically.
I've been there.
That's sometimes that's the process, but you need to get your stuff done if it's going to get made. So I always had the idea to finish it. So I always wanted to go back to it. So eventually I did, which was a few years ago now. And I sent it to Oscar Nilsson. Shout out to the director, Oscar Nilsson. I sent it to him and he was on board. We had the same vision of how we wanted it to look and bring it to life. And yeah, we was on the same page, which I really appreciated. So yeah, it took a while to really put into action. But I thought sit with it, and because it was a story that was quite close to home, I thought that would be the perfect project to start with.
Tell me about the process of actually making it, because if you funded it with crowdfunding, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, so I raised did a crowdfunding with Indiegogo. It ran for about 2 months, and it was an interesting process. Because I was sort of umming and ahhing about it, like, should I do it? Should I not? And I feel like as creatives, as people generally, you don't want to sort of ask for money and sort of put yourself out there, and it's sometimes it's a bit of a thing to put. It's exposing, because you put yourself online doing a video asking people for money to donate to your cause or whatever. It's quite exposing. So I had to sort of overcome that. And I thought, you know what? If I want to get it done, I have to do it. So I just thought, put up a shut up. So recorded the video after so many tries and then finally managed to get it done, put it online, raise the money. And we didn't raise the full amount that we needed. We raised just over half. So we aimed to make it for a budget of 12. We managed to raise 7. So we did it. Oscar said, we're still going to make it happen. It's fine. So he pulled out all the stops. Again, shout out to Oscar Nilsson. He really pulled out the stops for the film. And yeah, so we had the money, and then obviously we got the team on board. Then we did, you know, the whole audition process, you know, we did the audition process online, like Mandy, got a few self-tapes in. It was very interesting seeing loads of self-tapes coming in because, you know, I'm used to doing it the other way. So seeing them come in, I was like, oh, okay, this is what it's like.
I wanted to ask you about it because obviously casting for us actors, it's just like you record something and you send it out and mostly you don't hear anything about it. Or sometimes you do. Mostly don't. How is it on the other side of the table?
I unfortunately became that guy that didn't get back.
How many submissions did you have?
I had for different roles. For the role of Taron, my younger brother, I had about like 40. There was about 40 applicants that I looked through anyway. There was more. But I had about 40 different self-tapes and stuff like that I had to look through. And I tried to get back to people. Yeah. I wasn't completely successful, but I did get back to as many as I could. Because I know what it's like to sort of not get a response back. At least I want to hear something, you know, whether I didn't get or I did, but don't leave me in suspense. So I tried to make sure I got back to everyone to tell them, you know, sorry, unfortunately. I was the one to send them the unfortunately emails. And I felt kind of bad because I know what it's like to get them. Because I've got the emails before and you're like, you anticipate like, yes. And then you see unfortunate, oh, okay, all right, fine. So yeah, I had to get back to everyone and stuff. So the auditioning process was interesting because, you know, I put the casting out there and to see what the reception would be. And then, you know, I asked Tyler as well to tape for it too, because obviously we have the bond of like brothers. He is my little brother. And yeah, his tape and, you know, our bond, our chemistry it just made sense. We did a table read and we did a table read with, you know, the people involved that, you know, sort of got the role or I wanted to cast. And then when we did it, it just felt right. So I just thought, you know what, this is going to be the cast. It felt like it should be, or it was meant to be at the time.
Yeah. And well, Tyler, because I remember Tyler from the class. He was always he was on point. Always, he's very good.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah. But for some other roles, what was your criteria? Like your process of actually selecting people and how you basically just what did you expect? Was there anything that you didn't expect and that was a good surprise?
There was with the woman that played my mum. We put out a casting call. We got a good few tapes. And that was an interesting process because like I knew what I was looking for, but like some of the tapes wasn't quite matching it. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, yeah, it doesn't quite fit. Like maybe they might have looked right for the role, but seeing the tape might not have fit the energy that it was bringing. Marsha Miller played my mum in the film. When I came across her tape, straight away I knew that was the one that was gonna have the role. Like as soon as I saw her tape, the life that she brought as like my mother, like that was the life that I needed it to have. Because sometimes we interpret the script in different ways, and sometimes what you necessarily might bring to the table might not necessarily be what the writer envisioned. So sometimes it's interesting to sort of see it from both sides. But yeah, eventually I managed to like get what I wanted from the role of mum. Thank you to Marsha Miller for contributing and putting the tape through.
And I read on Instagram that you wrote that at some point you were really considering actually quitting. I mean, stopping, just forgetting about this film, and there were people who actually helped you to get through it. Tell me about those struggles.
With the film, or you mean acting in general?
The film.
I think it was the funding process. That's what it was referring to, because we didn't get the full money. and I wasn't sure if it was actually going to happen. So we aimed to get 12. So the fact that we didn't, I was like, okay, what can we do with this money? If we can't rate, short films, they take a lot of money. They cost money to make. And if we raised half the estimated amount, I was like, this isn't going to happen. But me and the director, Oscar Nilsson, we was talking about it through and through, and he was like, no, we can make it happen. He was like, I'll pull some strings or whatever. And he was like, yeah, he was adamant. He was determined to make it happen. And he wasn't going to listen to my negativity, no matter how negative it was. But he was adamant. No, he would actually get it done and get it made. So I said, okay. And we did eventually. And now you watched it yesterday, so you see the end product.
How different is it? How involved were you in the editing process?
Very much involved. Very much involved. Yeah.
How different is the final product from what you had in your head?
It's not that different. It's quite accurate how I envisioned it. There's certain parts. Because obviously the script's come a long way from what it used to be. So there's a few changes that were made along the way. But it's pretty bang on how I envisioned it to be. But it's just interesting seeing it go from the page to the screen. Like, we're used to watching films and stuff, but making films is like a surreal experience because it comes from your mind. And I'm like, right, actually, I wrote this. I was like, I wasn't used to, like creating something because it's my first project, but it was pretty accurate because he knew the shots that he wanted to go for. He knew how he wanted to lay it out and stuff like that. He had the vision for it. So like the vision actually played out. I was like, I was surprised, pleasantly surprised.
And then it went to the festivals. And you won, right?
Yes.
At Cannes Short Film Festival.
Yes.
Which it's big. There is a lot of festivals out there. There is a lot of people who decide like, I gotta make a festival. But Cannes is different. This is like, it's big.
Yeah.
And did you go there?
They had a premiere in London.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went to the premiere in London. That was, I think, the 29th of March. So that was an interesting experience because I didn't know what to expect. But it was at Genesis Cinema in Mile End. And, like I didn't know what to expect. So we showed up and there was a good few films showing as well before ours. So it's quite a nerve-wracking experience because when the films come on, it was about 5 short films that they were showing at the time. I didn't know when One Brother was going to come on. And, I was sitting next to Tyler Kinghorn at the time and, I was saying, okay, I think it's next. And then it wasn't. I was like, okay. And then it wasn't. And then eventually it came up last. And, there was a film before mine, which was a comedy. So you heard everyone laughing in the cinema. So I was like, okay, people like this one. With One Brother, I couldn't gauge if people liked it because it's not a comedy. Yeah. You might laugh at like 1 or 2 parts, but it's not a comedy. So I was trying to gauge whether people liked it or not, but it's just the cinema was just silent. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I don't know. And then after it finished, there was a round of applause. Okay. I was like, okay, that's some energy. And then when sort of everyone was walking out, there was a lot of people that came up and was talking to me. And I remember I had a guy that he said that the element of care, the caring element was, he said he knew it was true because he used to care for his mother as well. And he was like, he knows that it comes from a real place. And we just had a conversation and it was just eye-opening. And, when you make something, sometimes the effect or the impact that it has on people, it really brings you, like, it really hits home for you or for me. Like, it was amazing just hearing how it made people feel when they was watching it. Some people said they felt like they wanted to cry and like it really touched them. I haven't got anyone to say they cried though. I'm working on that. That's the next level of accomplishment. When someone says it actually made me cry, that I can't wait for. But it was a surreal experience, just being a part of the whole thing, and just being in the festival, because we did that, and then we had LIFF, London Independent Film Festival, a few weeks later. And, just sort of being a part of, in that whole sort of thing, it's a surreal experience to know that I actually wrote something that's involved in it.
It should be an insane feeling.
It is an insane feeling because the whole process, the funding, filming, the first day filming was a surreal experience, just being there, knowing that this is something that I've written and everyone's sort of doing this. And I was like, this is crazy. To the editing, seeing it edited. I remember watching it the first time and I was like, oh, I don't like this. I didn't like it at the start because, as we said before, very, very self-critical of everything. And when I watched it, I was like, nah, I don't know about this. I was like, and then it went through a series of, redrafts and re-edits and, Oscar, the director, edited it. So, it was a lot of back and forth. He sent me a draft. I was like, okay, what about this and whatever. So we worked in close proximity to actually bring together what it is now that you see. But it was, even to the festival and even winning as well, that was very unexpected.
Yeah.
It's been surreal from start to finish. The fact that we raised enough money to get it made to the point of winning an award as well.
It's a very prestigious award.
Yeah. I have no words. I was lost for words. Yeah. Genuinely, when we won, I was like, oh, I'm sorry. It still hasn't fully hit me yet, but it's just a surreal experience. I'm just grateful and honored to, be in, this position of, putting something out there, making something people resonate with, and then, winning an award on top of it as well.
Yeah.
Can't even describe it, to be honest with you.
What would be, in your mind, the main topics of the shirt?
In terms of themes, definitely mental health. Mental health, knife crime, and poverty, and how the three are also linked. Again, as I said, it's told through a family dynamic. So I love that aspect of it because it humanizes everyone involved in the film and the characters. So I like the element of, I want to raise awareness and start conversations about mental health, about knife crime, but not just knife crime, but the root cause of knife crime. So why does it happen? Or, because a lot of the time, we're all human. Do you know what I mean? It's not like someone just picks something up and decides to do something some days. There's a lot of, things involved. There's a lot of layers that are involved with it. And, it's a very gray area. It's not black and white. Because sometimes, knife crime in particular, but I'm just speaking as a whole, sort of within where we're from and stuff like that. Sometimes people just need to make money, for their family. Sometimes people have, you might have a child at home and you don't have time to go through the proper way of getting a job, going to an interview, securing a job and then waiting a month or 2 months to get paid or whatever. Sometimes you need it yesterday for your starving baby that is starving now. So how do you go about that? Do you contact people that to, sell something, or do you know what I mean? I feel like we need to have conversations about that. Yeah. That's important. The mental health aspect of things, so we don't brush it under the carpet. My dad's got schizophrenia. That's why that element was in the first place. But, making sure our family takes their meds and, not just sort of brushing it past no, it's fine. That's just them or whatever. Mm. These people need help. And sometimes family aren't equipped enough to deal with these things, deal with these issues, because we're not trained. Do you know what I mean? We're not trained in this field. It's just you get a brother and your brother has this issue. Okay, you don't know what that means, or you have a son and your son has this issue. You've been living your life, going about your life, working to provide for your wife and whatever, and then you get a child that has these problems. How do you deal with it? Obviously, you have to do your research and what happens? How do you sort of manage it? I think that's very important because sometimes it's just easy to sort of, brush the sort of family member with the mental illness to a side and say they've just got that problem and not address it. I think, I would want to raise questions and raise awareness of all of these things because they're important. Because mental health is a thing within not just the Black community, it's within every community. It's a thing that, is getting better in terms of the conversations that we're having around it. But
the actual mental health in general, I think, is not getting better. That's why we have so many conversations about it. I mean, honestly, on my example, I came here from Eastern Europe, from like ex-Soviet country. My father always thought like all this like bullshit with therapy and like those are not real problems or whatever. And I mean, yes, obviously, if like your kids are dying from starvation or like bombs are falling on it, like people dying from anything like worse, and it's bigger problems than, well, I feel sad. I mean, it's not like I'm just feel sad. It's much deeper. But in general, our problems aren't smaller than they are just because someone else has bigger problems. And also during COVID, like I realized that I was so depressed at some point that I didn't even know that until I realized that, oh my God, I'm in such a deep shithole. So it's not mental health, it's health. It's health, because your mental health affects your body. A lot of diseases actually come also from mental health or getting worse because of your mental health. So
I agree. And it's true because people in like different countries and stuff like that, they have like so much bigger problems. So, they might look at us and be like, what are you complaining about? But there's a way to sort of like navigate it because, our problems can be seen as menial to, different countries' problems, of course. But that doesn't mean that they're not necessarily problems.
Of course.
And, within reason, because, you go to different countries and mental health isn't a thing that's high on their list. They don't have, schemes that help people with, mental health issues and like disabilities and stuff like that. They just expect you to kind of walk it off. And, you see a lot of people that are suffering with these problems and they don't get help from the government and stuff like that. So there's definitely a fine line between it, because I believe there needs to be a sweet spot between like being coddled and, being too harsh. There needs to be a sweet spot between that. Because I think when you go too far one way, there's problems.
Yeah. And also even like within this one country, the range is huge, because there's a lot of people here, I would say, like in the UK, who live very, very different lives. There is still a lot of poverty here as well. Like, there are people who live like in conditions that are very different from their neighbors, like across the street. Yeah. So I think it's important to kind of, to humanize, because the topics that subjects that you had in One Brother is basically giving a face to people, like making them human and not showing like, everything isn't black and white, and people do stuff because they actually have reasons they have to do sometimes, that people get desperate, which is desperation, I think is one of the subjects as well in your shorts. It's one of the main things that actually pushes your character to do something.
It's a driving force, definitely.
And let's say like this is a short film like there is a little bit of doom in it.
A little bit.
Let's say, I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's not a light watch. For sure. So you said your dad was schizophrenic, yeah?
Yes.
Is. Yes. And how? Can you explain to people who don't know, and well, to me as well, because I'm familiar with the term. Like, I do know a little bit about it, but like, what is it? What is schizophrenia?
Schizophrenia, it's a mental illness that warps your perception of reality. So basically, that means anything. So whether it's you're hearing voices, you're seeing things, or you're talking about something that didn't happen, because that did happen with my dad quite a lot when I was younger. He would say certain things and I'm like, that didn't happen. Sometimes when I'll speak to him over the phone, I will notice the shift. And when I notice the shift, then I'm like, oh, okay, maybe you haven't been taking your medication. Because you hear the tonal shift, or maybe he might be laughing a lot, or when he laugh a little bit too much, I might be like, okay, like just to keep an eye on or whatever. And I remember there was a time when I was on the phone to him when I was younger. I don't remember how old, but I was on the phone to him and I can tell like he was experiencing a bit of an episode. And he said to me, he was like, oh, ask your mum if she remembers that time we had a dance. And I was like, okay. And I said to Mum, do you remember the time that you and Dad had this dance? And she looked at me and she said, he's not well. She was like, no, that didn't happen. And from that moment, I knew that, you know, he was sort of like having his episode or whatever. Schizophrenia, it takes its form in different ways. I remember there was another time where I sort of just saw him sitting there, just staring blankly into space, like just staring at nothing. And he was irresponsive. You talk to him, he wouldn't talk. I remember I tried to, I don't know why I thought I could get through to him or whatever, but I tried to talk to him, no response, and he was just sort of just staring blankly into the space. And sometimes they disappear for a while, because he's also gone, and we didn't hear from him. I remember there was a time we didn't hear from him for a whole year, and we didn't know what happened to him. We just thought, we thought anything could happen to him because, you don't hear from him, no phone calls, no, went to his house a good few times. There was no one there. And yeah, he came back eventually. And, I asked him where he went, and he said he went everywhere. He just said we went everywhere throughout the country. And I was like, what did you do? And he was just like, he was just wandering. And like, that was very interesting to me. Because like, it was just very interesting to me hearing, that you sort of, it sounds almost like an adventure in a weird way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like where you just sort of say, you know what, I'm just going to go somewhere, or I'm just going to go everywhere. And then you sort of just take a train, you have no plans. And then, you have the bag on your back, or you don't, or whatever. And then you sort of just go somewhere, and you don't look back for a while or whatever. So
it does sound like an adventure, but the adventure that I would never have enough guts to take.
Exactly. That's kind of what, in a weird way, I respected about him, because like, you just did something, like something that I there's no way that I would have done that or whatever.
Alone.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's a form that schizophrenia could take. There's another version. Someone that I know very well, he was experiencing an episode as well. And he was in my house one time. And I heard like shouting, right? And cause he was my mum's friend. So they would chill or whatever. And I just heard shouting. So I thought he was, shouting at her. So I came out to see like, what's going on? Like, you're protective over your mom and whatever. And then I saw him just sort of staring up into the ceiling and just shouting at himself. Because he was saying his name. He's like, why did you do that? Staring into the ceiling and just repeating himself. Why did you do that? Why did you do that? And like, that's when we realized, okay, he's having, an episode or whatever. But so that in a nutshell. I hope that I hope that explains what schizophrenia can be.
But there's medication. How good is medication? What, like, does it actually prevent the episodes, or
it holds back the thoughts?
Yeah.
Because I've heard, my dad has said, like, when he's having his moments or whatever, he refers to them as demons. So he says the demons take over and stuff like that. So, like, he said it can be quite loud when he doesn't take his medication, because he hears these thoughts. He hears a lot of intrusive thoughts. So the medication sort of holds that back from happening, so you don't hear these thoughts, and you don't sort of see things and imagine things that didn't happen and whatnot. So it's interesting how that actually works, right? You can take medication to stop these things. I think that's very interesting. But so it holds back these thoughts and these inner monologues and all of that stuff. So that's what the medication's for, which more time does help. But apparently processed sugar prevents it from doing its job. If you have excess processed sugar, like if you have a lot of like sweets and chocolates and stuff like that and whatnot.
Apparently sugar nowadays, like I was listening to some different like podcasts about like, and sugar is just bad for everything. Like people, apparently they're like, it's I'm not sure how much of it is true, but I've heard that changing the diet, eating properly, can remove a lot of the symptoms of mental diseases.
Really?
Yeah. And so what we eat is horrible nowadays. But how did it affect you? Like your childhood and just in general having a father with schizophrenia?
It affected me because, I feel like, obviously I felt like at the time it was just me or just us that was going through it. So it was a situation where I guess I craved normality. Because, you have these things going on in your life when you're younger, and to you that's normal. But then, you go to school and you see, other children with their families, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe it's not normal or whatever, because maybe both parents are there, or, whatever. It seems a little bit more, the foundation seems a little bit more solid. So I guess I craved normality in that sense, and, just not having that support of the father there really, sort of took effect. And not just not having that there, the fact that he had those issues as well, didn't help as well. Because obviously I understand it now that I'm an adult. I can, I respect him and I love him. It's fine, because, what's done is done and you have to forgive. And not just like that, but when you're a child, you don't want to understand. You choose not to understand because, why can't it be that simple? Why can't it be that easy? Why can't we just, be normal or whatever? The jigsaw pieces weren't fitting together. It definitely did affect me. But at the same time, sometimes you come out stronger because of it. And I think that's sort of the takeaway from these things sometimes.
Yeah. What would you want people to take away from One Brother?
I'd want people to take away that we're all people at the end of the day, where these issues that we have within, the communities and stuff like that, they are issues that need to be addressed. And I want to start conversations around all of the themes of mental health. Obviously, there's already a conversation about knife crime, but I want to start a conversation about humanizing us, not humanizing knife crime, because I never want to normalize that.
Of course.
But at the same time, it's a part of, life within London, because, it happens and you can't escape that. But at the same time, to focus on the root cause of it itself, because for the most part, I'd say it comes from poverty. When, when people don't have, then it causes them to do certain things to make their situation better. And I'm not saying that makes it right. Of course it doesn't. But at the same time, it's cause and effect. So I want to start conversations on, as I said, mental health, humanizing us, but not normalizing knife crime. I think that's important because, we're all people at the end of the day. And just to ultimately show that there is no black and white to this, there is a very gray area. And just to sort of have these conversations. So hopefully we can, try and solve or try and reduce the damages that it's causing on families. And I also wanted to show the damage that it causes on families as well, because so much content focuses on, the gang crime itself without showing the effect that it has on the broken families and the broken homes.
And when will people be able to see it?
So there is going to be a premiere on the 19th of August at Genesis Cinema in Ireland. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to release it on YouTube on MYM on the 20th of August for everyone to see.
Nice. And you'll send me the link and I'll post the link under this episode. So after 20th of August, check it out. So you keep writing though?
Yes.
What are the other topics of your writings? Like what are you writing about?
Well, right now, funny enough, I'm actually focusing on a feature version of One Brother.
I thought about it actually. Honestly, I yesterday I watched it. I was like, first of all, even if it ends there, it feels like there is so much more that could happen. Or it might not even end there. No. So right now I'm focused on the feature version of it. So I'm building the structure and working out the script and the ideas and stuff. So I'm working on the foundation. But a lot of people would like to see more, which is, again, it's a feeling that I can't describe. The fact that people want to see my stuff. It blows me away every time. Yeah. Because you actually want to see what I wrote. Okay. So just the fact that people want to see it and, what I've created. So I'm looking forward to creating something that hopefully, fingers crossed, people can resonate with on a bigger scale, because it will be a feature film this time and not a short film. So I'd like to hope that people can resonate with it on a wider scale. And that people enjoy it as much, if not more, than the short that I've created. So that's currently what I'm working on at the moment. Did winning the festival open any doors for you? Yeah. It started more conversations. It started more conversations around what can happen from this. What it means right now. And right now right now my energy's on creating the feature film for One Brother and also doing the premiere on the 19th to make it as successful as possible. Yeah. Just to get, because when you win an award, you need to build on that momentum, and I don't want to let that go, basically. So it's opened a lot more doors. I've been speaking to a few journalists, a few different people within the industry. So there's going to be something that comes out of it. Nice. At the end of the day, that's why I'm writing a feature film. Yeah. So basically, that's what is next for you at the moment. Yeah. At the moment, yes. That's currently what I'm building at the moment. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Good. This is it's so nice to hear when something goes right, for your friends. Because in this industry, you know how it is. Yeah. You know how do you deal with rejection? I don't.
Who said I dealt with rejection? Like, what kind of question is that? No, you know, it's just about, for me, it's just about understanding that just because you want a role doesn't mean that you're right for it. And that's fine. Because sometimes what you bring to a role, someone else brings something completely different. And that's necessarily what the casting director or the writer had envisioned for their story.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with you personally. It's easier said than done, but don't take it personal. Because even through like casting One Brother myself, I'm seeing now like how it works. Like, you know, it's nothing to do with your ability. It's not that you lack ability. It's just for this role, we're gonna go with this person because they fit what I had in my mind when I wrote the character. Do you get what I mean? And sometimes that's all it is. It's a hard pill to swallow sometimes, but especially when like it's a role that you really want, when you get the audition and like you in your mind you've already got the role and you imagine yourself on set doing it, you know, with your co-stars and whatever. But at the same time, it's about also disassociating yourself and not taking it personal, because eventually your time will come. Consistency is key.
Unless you die first.
Well, I have no plans to die right now, so.
Well, give it time. No, I'm joking. Of course I'm joking. It's just, you know, sometimes it's you feel like if I could do anything else, I would, but I can't.
Yeah, no, I know. Like through acting, I feel like the more you do it, the more you fall in love with it, and like just the more you do it, the more engulfed you get in it. And I don't think I would want to do anything else. I can't see myself doing anything else. As I mentioned, I failed school. I can't do anything else.
No, it's not like I'm sure that you can do whatever you really want to do. That's the thing. That's the problem with a lot of schools, I think. It's just understandable. Like, we need to learn how to learn. It's one of the main things that schools do, but it just depends so much on good teachers, I think. Like, people who can actually make you want to learn more. And in other cases, they're just they don't care, you don't care. It just doesn't help anyone.
Yeah, but the thing is as well, which another thing I love about acting, there's so many different ways to act. There's so many different methods of like acting itself. So it's like if one method doesn't work for you, you can find another one.
Yeah.
And then that might work for you. Sometimes what necessarily we learn or you think works or whatever, then you learn something else, and then that sort of opens more doors, and then you can be a bit more free with it. And then because whatever that teacher teaches or whatever method that is might click with you more than the previous teacher. And it's nothing against the previous teacher or whatever. It's just sometimes there's certain things that just click with us in different ways.
And also, different things can click at different time for different roles.
That as well. Yeah. That as well. That's the beauty of it, because when it comes together and it clicks in your mind, sometimes the pin drops a little bit late, but you get there eventually.
Hopefully. Eventually. It's been eventually long.
Consistency, my friend. Consistency is key.
What would be your, like, if you're not writing, if you're being cast to a project, what would be your like dream project?
Ooh, dream project. I'd love to play like a rogue detective. Like a rogue detective that does things his own way. I love to play something like that, like a Jake Gyllenhaal in Prisoners, for example, or or Carl Urban in The Boys or something like that. He's obviously not a detective,
but
you know
he does everything his own way.
Yeah. Or even like not the Punisher, but John Bernthal, like Punisher, like something like that, where he's like the rogue. He doesn't take shit from nobody.
Yeah.
You know, he does things his own way. He makes his own rules. I'd love to play a character like that.
Nice.
Yeah, that's I'm putting it out there into the universe right now.
Well, hopefully one day we'll. I would love to work with you as well.
Yeah, one day it will happen. One day it will happen.
Should. Let's get personal. What would you say would be the toughest thing that you had to go through in your life?
In terms of acting?
In terms of life.
In terms of life, oof. The toughest thing that I've had to go through. Oof. I think I'd probably say the caring aspect of, because now I'm a carer for my mum. So like, you know, seeing how she used to be, and like when I was younger, she was always sort of up and down doing everything and stuff. And the fact that, you know, she's no longer able to do all of these things that she used to do, I feel like that is quite humbling, just to see. You know, we've spoken all about the stuff with my dad already and stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't want to go over that again. But I feel like for me, yeah, it's been a hard pill to swallow. Just sort of seeing that and having to deal with that and cope with that. Yeah, probably because, you know, when you're younger, our parents are like your superheroes or whatever, within reason, of course. And like, you know, seeing them to go from that to, and then when you get older, when you start to then become adult, then your parents just become human. And then from seeing them as that to human to now you have to be cared for. Yeah. That's been an interesting thing to go through. Yeah, it's not really been easy, if I'm honest. But yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, yeah, at some point, like now I'm a father myself, and I'm like, this guy's a father? Oh my God. I can still eat sand. I mean, I'm not competent. And then you're catching yourself of, you know, like sometimes I catch myself talking to my kids and I'm like, oh my, I can hear my father. Like, I remember my dad telling me the same things and I was like, whatever. And now like, I'm just, they will never listen.
It's so weird because I'm noticing the same thing. Like, I don't have children, but you know, I've got a little cousin in my life, which I try and, you know, be a positive example for. And like, sometimes when I'm talking to him, I'm like, oh my God, this is literally something like, you know, my mum used to say to me, or, you know, someone of my mum's generation would try and, you know, and you never would hear it back then. You think you don't know what you're talking about, whatever. And now I'm like, oh my God, I'm that guy. You know what I mean?
Here goes the lecture.
And, you know, I always say to him, I'm not trying to lecture you or anything. And then carry on to lecture.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm seeing history repeat itself, and I'm just like, sometimes I have to take myself back, like, what the hell is going on? I'm seeing it now. Like, seeing exactly like how, you know, our parents' generation spoke to us before, and seeing it materialize is just crazy to me.
Yeah, and how it's just like, it's a constant circle.
It's a constant cycle.
Because they think, well, I thought, you don't know nothing. They were like, you idiot. We lived through everything you know. we lived through it. You're not unique. As much as you want to think that you are, you're not. And billions of people went through the same thing. Like, just listen. No, I want to do my own mistakes. Oh, why didn't you tell me?
And then they might come back a few months later. By the way, Dad, you was right, you know.
No, you will never say. Maybe years later, you know what? So you remember like 20 years ago, yeah, you were like, right.
That's where when they become men, that's when you can have that conversation.
Yeah.
And that's when you can have that reflective, honest conversation, which is just, it blows my mind because I always used to underestimate our parents' generation.
But also at the same time, just realizing right now as a father, like, oh my God, they also did so many mistakes because, I'm doing so many mistakes. I'm like, oh, well, that's some permanent damage done. Let's move on.
But you see how it happened, right?
Maybe with the next one will be better.
It's trial and error, man. It's trial and error. No, but you see how the mistakes like happen or could have happened, and you're just like, everything just pieces together, and you're like, okay, I get it now. And then you sort of have to have a little bit of lenience with your parents because it's like, I get it now. Like, because, you know, as I said, with our parents, when you're a child, they're your hero. And you think they can do no wrong. They're perfect. They're inhuman. But then when you realize they're just like us, they're just like you and me. They're just normal, make mistakes. They say stupid stuff sometimes. And they do stupid things sometimes. And they're like, why did I do that? And, you know, because they're human. Just because they've had you and they created you and brought you on this earth doesn't mean, you know, that they're any less human. So it's just, it's a surreal experience, man.
Yeah, it's true. Okay. I have 2 questions that I ask everyone.
Okay.
Do you have a mission in life? Something, you know, that drives you apart from work?
Yeah. My mission, what I feel like my mission is, because, you know, we are the only ones that can judge that. Is to help others, whatever that means, or whatever, whether that's through creating something that people watch and it makes them feel something, doing a performance that makes them feel something, you know, because our aim for this production company, you know, we wanna be able to help our community as well, with, you know, opportunities and stuff like that. I think that's so important, you know, representing, you know, people like you and stuff like that. I feel like that is so important. So I feel like that's where my heart lies. My heart lies in the creative arts, creating work, creating like art. I love, like, now that I've sort of been like involved in this whole process, I'm not stopping. Like, I love the writing process. I love creating. I love filmmaking. I love like making a project real, like making it happen. I love acting. Acting is like, for me, that's the first love. But I've done filmmaking now, and I've also enjoyed that quite a bit. So I love the whole process. So I want to continue to create things for, you know, like our community, and just to give opportunities to people, because, you know, at the end of the day, I've seen how it can be within the industry, and, you know, sometimes it could be quite hard. Sometimes you have to create your own stuff and whatnot. And, you know, through creating your own things, you're able to sort of give a platform. And I feel like that is my mission.
Where does it come from, your desire to help people?
If I'm honest, I'll probably say my mum. Because my mum's got a very big heart. She's the type of person she'll give you the clothes off her back, basically, if it means that you're okay. or you'll be warm and she will suffer. And, you know, I'm not completely the same because, you know, I would probably cut it in half so we could both have a piece, you know. But yeah, I think for me, like that's probably where I get it from, because she's been like the kindest person that I can probably like talk about. Like she's done a lot for people, and you know, I feel like that's genuinely where I get it from. Yeah, nice. It's rubbed off on me. Yeah.
If you could give one piece of advice that applies to everyone, universal, no matter who they are, where they are, and what they do, what would it be?
Can I look at the camera while I say it?
Sure. Please do.
One piece of advice that I'll probably say is, I think, therefore I am. I think that's a very profound saying. I think, you know, us as people, you're only as powerful as you think you are. And, you know, like, don't let anyone tell you can't do anything, you know? I think that's very important. You know, if you want to do something, do it. If you want to do something, like, doesn't matter what it is, work towards it and do it. Try. You know, the worst thing that can happen is you'll fail. If you fail, doesn't mean you can't try again, or, you know, or maybe it might not be for you, but you wouldn't know if you don't try. So the best thing that I could say is, you know, believe in yourself. Have that self-belief in yourself that you can do anything that you put your mind to, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. If people tell you otherwise, get them out of your life. If they don't agree with your vision, maybe not everybody, because some people are realistic and sometimes we're unrealistic with certain things. Sometimes we want to do too much. And, you know, sometimes people are like, okay, maybe not. Maybe you can do that, but that might be a bit too ambitious. Do you get what I mean? So maybe not everything, but at the same time, be realistic with your goals. But if you want to do something, do it. Yeah. And
maybe you're a little bit too tall to be a jockey, but
within reason. Within reason.
But you can saddle a horse and, you know, and try and do it. No, but yeah, I understand what you mean. And here we come to our new tradition. This season we have a tradition called Lasting Words.
Okay. So
it's in two parts. First part, my previous guest, Dara Hoyes Martinez, she is a model and actor, left for you. Next quote.
Okay.
Growth feels like loss until it feels like freedom. So what do you feel? Like, does it make you feel anything? Is there any maybe stories coming into your mind, you know, something from your experience, or just what does it make you feel? Growth feels like loss until it feels like freedom.
It makes me feel two things. It makes me feel sad, for one, because it's shedding that part of you that once was and letting it die. And, you know, but for any growth to happen, that needs to happen. So there's that tinge of sadness just for what once was. And, you know, it makes me feel, and like, I mean, I'm not sure if anxious is the right word, but excited for the future, because you're shedding what once was and you're looking forward to what is to come. And I feel like that should be where we're at in life. You need to keep evolving and you need to move forward. Sometimes we have to shed certain things that don't suit us. I think that's important, because change is inevitable. Growth is imperative for improvement to be made. So you have to grow, you have to change if you wish to improve on anything that you do in life. And I think that saying is profound. But yeah, it makes me feel like two different conflicting emotions, but more excitement than sadness.
Okay. And now it's your turn. So I want you to take a second or a minute to think of a phrase or a quote that stuck with you. It could be anything. Could be a quote from a book. It could be a quote from a song. It could be a quote from a loved one. Someone, maybe one of your parents told you something a long time ago. Something that really stuck with you. Something that maybe changed even your view of the world to a degree. Something that is meaningful for you.
I'd say I read The Alchemist a few months ago. Really good book. Yeah. And there's a phrase in it, maktab, if I'm saying it correctly, which I might not be, but it just refers to, if I remember it correctly, live and let live, let be what is to be. And, just because the book is a profound book in terms of like just the journey of life. And maktab, it basically refers to just being at one with, everything, nature, spiritual, like everything, like just letting go and being at one with and at peace with yourself and just letting what needs to happen. Because I'm a firm believer in destiny. I do believe in destiny. I do believe destiny is a thing. And I believe that sometimes when we, along, in the book, it says, when you walk towards your destiny, there are people that will help you achieve your goals. And personally, I found that in my life, 100%. Because, just speaking on something as small as, not as small, but as small in the grand scheme of things as creating a short film, like I met with people and it wasn't a coincidence that I met these people to put this short film together. I met Oscar Nilsson through Tyler. And as soon as we met, I was like, I want to work with you. And we both said the same thing. It was like, I want to work with you. It's just a matter of time. We said that probably a good 8 years ago when I first met him, and we finally worked together last year. So it took 7 years or whatever, however long. It took a while for us to actually be able to work together. And now I've gained a brother through that, So, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It does. But it's so hard to be in peace with everything.
It is, but you know what? I've been on this journey of peace recently. It's not an easy journey. It's an interesting journey because sometimes it's interesting to just sort of sit with yourself and sit with your thoughts. And because sometimes we may have a lot going on in our mind because of stresses and struggles and stuff like that we're going through. But sometimes it's good to just be.
Yeah.
Sitting
with the thoughts is very hard recently since we have those things.
Yeah.
Every time when you are with yourself, you're like, okay, there's too much shit boiling here. Let me check what's happening on whatever social network you choose.
Yeah, I agree. But I think it's very, very profound. Be in a place of calm. I've been trying to achieve that lately, which I've been achieving more. But it's a journey. You don't just get there, wake up one morning and everything's fine and you're in a constant place of serenity or whatever you'd call it. But yeah, it does take a while. But it's an ongoing journey. But it's a journey worth undertaking.
If you're ready.
Yeah. If you're ready. But I definitely refer The Alchemist.
Now you know. Look, man, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to talk to you and to discuss everything and go deep and talk about your movie and about this industry and about life. And I really hope we'll get a chance to work together at some point.
We definitely will.
And I hope we'll get more excuses to do that again.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely. Yeah.
If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, comment below, share your stories with struggles with mental health. Tell us your story, and bye.
Bye.